Clay Helton's been on the scene now. This is his third spring. I'm just interested because obviously he takes over. He's got to conclude against one of the tougher schedules in college football. That first season into the bowl game against Wisconsin, turns around with a rough 3-game stretch to start out 2016, wins the Rose Bowl, the Pac-12. The USC people I have commenting here, Ryan, which is a fraction of what you hear, I'm sure, just still don't seem to be satisfied despite a Rose Bowl Pac-12 championship. But just your thoughts about maybe Clay Helton spring of 18 versus what we've seen in previous years?
Yeah, I think he's changed things up a little bit. I mean, there's certainly a lot of criticism. I don't know. I mean, because I think it's a lot has to do with the way he was hired, that a lot of people didn't like the hire at the time. So even though he did win the Rose Bowl, they felt, well, they could have been a playoff team if you started Sam Darnold earlier, or even though they won the Pac-12 last year, you got beat pretty bad by Notre Dame. You got beat in the Cotton Bowl by Ohio State. So they're saying against the better programs, you weren't really measuring up. So there's always criticism there. But I think as a younger head coach, a less experienced head coach, he kind of feels comfortable doing certain things. And you haven't seen a lot of changes happen, but I've seen a couple changes this spring. I think they've really changed the way they're teaching the defensive backs. We've seen Ronnie Bradford, the secondary coach, being a lot more involved in the corners. There's been a lot of penalties, blown coverages, giving up big plays, not really playing the football as much. I think you're seeing more of that better play from the cornerbacks. And that's with Jack Jones being out this spring, who was suspended. So I think they've changed that a little bit. And special teams was woeful last year. And they have a full-time special teams coordinator who's supposed to be a special teams guru. They shouldn't be as bad as they've been. I mean, just bad punt returns. They weren't really blocking any kicks. They weren't doing anything special. And you're giving up those hidden yards on special teams. They're practicing less. They also would practice a lot on special teams. They're using less practice time on special teams. And when they're doing it, there's less guys standing around. They're doing more specialty stuff where groups of people are doing things at the same time. So it's kind of spread out a little bit more. So I've seen some changes. I think even on the offensive line, doing some more physical drills too. Some changes we haven't really seen from Clay Helton the first couple of years. So I think he's probably taken it all in. You read the criticism, you hear about it, you hear people talking about it, and make some assessments. So I think he's made some assessments and made a few key changes that could pay dividends. We'll see this season.
Ryan, many of us wait for the spring game, and then we're disappointed because it's not real football. But in terms of assessing talent and looking for young guys that may need to step up, fill a void, and be impact players this year, we're looking to that spring game. But you note that's very accurate. Some of these scrimmages are just as important, and they're basically the same format to a certain extent as the spring game. So are there any young guys that maybe are way off the radar, haven't seen a whole lot of time, that you're excited, have jumped out, made plays, and might be impact players this fall?
Yeah, I think there's a few. I mean, I think you're going to see some come in the fall, but from the spring, there've been a few early enrollees, a couple of guys on the defensive side of the football that Clancy Pendergast brought out, called out specifically. Kanai Mauga is a linebacker from Hawaii. I keep saying his name wrong. I think it's Mauga, but we've said it like 5 different ways. But really impressed people. They got Jordan Iosefa a couple years ago out of Hawaii. 3-star guy, not as heralded, but when he comes in, he just plays his heart out. And I think you're seeing the same sort of thing from Kanai there. So I think he could be someone that gets in the mix and plays. And then Talanoa Hufanga, he's one of those guys that could take our job someday because he's a communication major and just a really well-spoken kid. He's a 5-star athlete out of Corvallis, Oregon, Oregon State territory, but he ended up coming to USC and didn't really play safety at all in high school, but he's going to be a safety at USC. He's had a couple of interceptions, a bunch of tackles for loss. He's played really well this spring, and they got to replace Chris Hawkins. I think it's a tall order to expect a true freshman to come in and do that, but I think if he gets on that trust list, he can be in that kind of rotation as well. So probably a couple of defensive players of newcomers have been the most impressive to me so far.
All right, folks, if you're a USC fan or just a big college football fan that needs to keep up with the elite programs, of course, join Ryan right there. Don't run away from my YouTube channel. Stay right here. I bring on guys like Ryan that do a fantastic job. But go to their YouTube channel at uscfootball.com, the website as well. That's just a tremendous source. I watch it all the time, get my information from Ryan and the rest of the group there. So, Ryan, we appreciate you jumping on board.
Hey, Mark, thanks for having me on.